Hey guys, Caleb's Cards here, coming at you with another video for the Sports Card Binder series. We finished going through all of the baseball binders in the last episodes in my binder project reboot, redoing that collection all again like I did before a couple years ago. It's been fun, and I decided to expand more into football. Hadn't really done that yet until last year, beginning of last year, and this is kind of my fruits of my labor so far, I guess. There's not as many like cards of every player in each page, just because I don't have that many at the moment. And I'm still moving cards in and getting more binders as well. I ran out of pages, so this is just kind of like what I have so far, but I still have many more to add, and probably another binder or two to add to the Hall of Fame and the stars um, as well. But this time we're actually going to start with the NFL stars instead of Hall of Famers this time, and we'll end it with Hall of Famers. Now, obviously, you see here Peyton Manning did just get elected to the Hall of Fame, so these cards will eventually be moved over to his section. Because for cards with multi-players on them, I uh, Hall of Famers tend to take precedence, and then so on and so on. So football is pretty hard for me. There's just way more positions in football than baseball, and more things to take in account. So hopefully you like what I've done with it when we go through this. So this should be um, A through D, I think. Going to be a lot of Broncos bias, but that's okay. I'm a Broncos fan, so there'll be lots of Broncos guys in here. But these are all just players that I consider stars. Have had pretty good careers. Some may not be in here yet because I don't think they're quite there yet, or I'm waiting to see how they do, or they just players I really like. So we'll start out with the cards with the multi-star players on them that I consider, and hopefully we stayed on this first page for long enough, so we'll move on to the second. And our first guy we have is John Abraham. I do have some more cards of him with the Falcons. They're just not moved in here yet. Jamal Adams, Eric Allen, who was pretty underrated, honestly, nowadays, but was a very good corner in the 90s. So we got a few of his. We got Jared Allen, Keenan Allen, and Terry Allen, who had some pretty good 1,000-yard rushing seasons, so I made sure to include him in here. We got Jair Alexander, who's a fairly recent player, but let's see, been around for a year or two and doing really well, so he's definitely worth putting in here. Most of the time I usually wait like 3 years, but some guys, if they impress me enough, I will put them in there right away. Got Sean Alexander. The Seahawks had a really nice string of really good running backs for a long time there. Mike Allstott. Got to make sure you have some fullbacks in there. Dick Anderson. We got a whole mix of new and old. Gary Anderson, a kicker. Can't forget about special teams and kickers. They all have their niches and their good stats for what they did. Jamal Anderson. Ken Anderson, who's a pretty good quarterback. Always is kind of talked about possibly getting the Hall of Fame. You never know. Otis Anderson. I think over 10,000 yards rushing in his career. Lots of injuries, though. Yeah, just barely over 10,000, but he's pretty good. Mark Andrews, he seems to be just a tight end catching machine for Lamar Jackson, so, I mean, he's got to make it in here. And he's been around for 2 years, so. Bruce Armstrong, really surprised he's not in the Hall of Fame. He has many Pro Bowls to his name. Sadly, his career probably would have gone for longer if he would have ran into some injury problems, but he was one of the best tackles. And one of the greatest TTM signers in football, too. Doug Baldwin, the Seahawks. Rondé Barber, pretty good defensive back. And then here's the other twin, Tiki Barber. Put together both of them were pretty solid players. You got Saquon Barkley. Hopefully he comes back from his injury. Barnett. I don't know how he did this year, but previous years he was pretty good. So put him in there. Anthony Barr. I haven't really heard much about him lately. But Bill Bates, really good special teamers and defensive back for the Cowboys his entire career. OBJ sadly gets injured a lot, but when he's healthy, he can be a real force to be reckoned with. Cornelius Bennett, kind of a forgotten about defensive linebacker, really good pass rusher, borderline Hall of Famer, played on those Super Bowl Bills teams for a long time. We got Eric Berry. I think his career's pretty much over now, but beat cancer, still performed at a high level when healthy. Shortened career, but enough to impress me. Matt Blair, who sadly passed away last year, but was a pretty good linebacker for the Vikings in the 70s and 80s, early 80s. Drew Bledsoe, of course, was the big-time deal in 1993. Still put up pretty good numbers. There's even been talks of him making the Hall of Fame. I don't think he would. Too many interceptions. But you never know, I guess. So we got quite a decent start to his. Rocky Bleier, got to put him in there. American hero, football player. He deserves to be in this binder. Dwayne Bower, he is a recent addition. Has finished in the recognition for Hall of Fame a couple times, I think. So I think that means he's worth of getting in there, getting in this binder. I think he had about 75, 80 sacks or so in his career. Although they didn't really keep track of that very well then, so it's kind of hard to tell. Anquan Bolden played for a long time, even still kind of at a high level, even a little bit older for wide receiver. Then we got Mr. Tom Brady, 7 Super Bowl rings. I mean, obviously we got to put him in here, so still playing, still terrorizing defenses. Cliff Branch really should be in the Hall of Fame. Drew Brees, another future Hall of Famer here. Got a few of his cards from the Saints lot I got way back. Lance Briggs, kind of didn't last quite as long, I think, as people would hope, but him and Brian Urlacher were a pretty good linebacker force for the Bears. So got to put him in here. Need to definitely get more cards of his. I got James Brooks, pretty decent running back. It's kind of hard to gauge running backs. I usually look like if they reach a certain threshold of yardage and their touchdown ratio, it's usually good enough for me. They don't have to necessarily make a bunch of Pro Bowls or anything like that. Just looking yardage and touchdowns, and if I thought they were pretty good. Antonio Brown could be kind of controversial, but I mean, when he wasn't messing up in his life, he was pretty good. Nice to see that maybe the Buccaneers gave him a chance and he wins the Super Bowl, and maybe he'll get to play another year or two, and probably not play super great, but I mean, even as a backup wide receiver, just get a chance, you know. Dave Brown, I don't think he's in the Hall of Fame, but he had 50 career interceptions or something like that. I have no idea why he's not. Jerome Brown, a really sad story. How he passed away at a young age. Was probably going to be a Hall of Famer. Was really fast for a defensive tackle, and for a guy being, what was he? 6'2". So he was just shy of 300. But he was probably 300. Lomas Brown had a lot of Pro Bowls. So that's why, for linemen, I think if they make 4 or 5 Pro Bowls in their career, I usually put them in here. So that's kind of how I choose on that, because it's really hard to gauge a lineman. You know, what stats can you really go off of? So I just go off Pro Bowls. Marquis Brown, Hollywood Brown. He's been doing really well. Joey Browner. Viking safety, All-Pro many seasons. Ross Browner, another good play for the Bengals. Mark Brunell, good scrambling and throwing left-handed quarterback. Teddy Bruschi, key cog of that Patriots success. Dez Bryant, nice to see he got a second chance again after that injury, but the numbers he put up after he kind of got over his immaturity a little bit with the Cowboys was really doing well. Ray Buchanan, another pretty good safety, kind of borderline Hall of Famer, lots of interceptions. DeForest Buckner, now on the Colts, terrorizing offensive lines and quarterbacks alike. John Bunting might be one that's off your guys' radar, but he was pretty good for the Eagles for a long time. So very cool, got to have him in there. Leroy Butler, been in talks for the Hall of Fame as well. I think he should be in it, but that's just my opinion. I thought he was pretty good. Ernest Biner. The Redskins had a lot of really good running backs. Like Gerald Riggs, Ernest Biner, John Riggins. I don't know how they were able to split time with all these guys. And then they all three put up really nice careers. So, and Riggins is a Hall of Famer. So, Ernest Biner. Well, I guess Biner technically came in the 90s. Did he? Yeah, he was with Cleveland before. But I think Riggs may have still been on the team then, in the early 90s there. But either way, you get what I mean. Calais Campbell. Now we go into the C's. Mark Carrier, the safety, not the wide receiver. Kind of, as a rookie, took the league by storm, and then kind of collected lots of interceptions, tackles. Good enough to be in here. Not like great, but good enough. Anthony Carter was another pretty good weapon for the Vikings. I had to make sure he's in here. I know he kind of has a low amount of receptions, but kind of a decent amount of touchdowns in comparison to that, and yardage. Kevin Carter was another guy I went back and forth on, but he was pretty good for the Rams. Kind of a sack machine. Had, I think, close to 100, if not 100. Cam Chancellor. I have no idea if he's still playing or how he's doing, but I remember hearing his name a lot, so I put him in there. Wes Chandler, another underrated Chargers wide receiver. Jamal Charles, when healthy, he was really, really good. A lot of people like to draft him in fantasy football because he get them lots of points. I've never played fantasy football before, but I guess if I did, I probably would have drafted him. Duron Cherry, another underrated Kansas City Chief. Ray Childress, beside that him, he was pretty good. Defense end for Oilers. So yeah. Wayne Corbett, almost like Wes Welker, always catching the ball like crazy. Nick Chubb. Dallas Clark, really good receiving tight end. A long time. Dwight Clark, of course, the famous moment was in the 1981 championship game, the catch. We got Gary Clark. This is one that you guys might not necessarily remember, but really good player for the Redskins and the Cardinals. I think he had, if we go to like his latest year here, 8,000 yards, 58 touchdowns so far, up to 93. So, I mean, he was pretty good. Mark Clayton, another popular target for Dan Marino. Retired with the Packers. Ben Coates, kind of underrated tight end. I decided to add him in here. It's kind of hard sometimes to gauge tight ends because some gain lots of yards and don't score a lot of touchdowns. Some gain lots of touchdowns and don't score a lot of yards. So it's kind of hard. Trent Cole, decided that him. He had about 75 career sacks. He's pretty decent, I guess. Lavernius Coles, another pretty good yardage receiver and touchdown ratio. Landon Collins. It's really big on Madden, like 2 years ago. Marquis Colston, weapon of Drew Brees. Sure. You got Bills fans, or Yeah, a favorite for Bills fans, if I can get my words out, Shane Conlon. And just take a look at those pants. Those are some crazy pants right there. So I ought to get a second card of that and send it to him or something. Get it back in a year or two. He does take a while, but he does sign. Dalvin Cook had an incredible year for the Vikings. Amari Cooper, just have one of his so far. Roger Craig, I think I have more cards around here somewhere. Should be in the Hall of Fame too. Dual purpose running back, catching and rushing. Antonio Cromartie, was pretty good. Made lots of Pro Bowls. Nolan Cromwell, another really good Pro Bowl safety that kind of gets forgotten about. Lots of interceptions. Algie Crumpler, good receiving tight end for the Falcons. Offensive weapon for Michael Vick. Randall Cunningham, of course. I mean, he was a glitch. And sadly, that injury kind of messed up, but he kind of started to put together again later in his career, but it's kind of a little too late. But still put up good numbers for at least the chances he got. Isaac Curtis, another really underrated, forgotten about Bengals wide receiver, but he was really good. Andy Dalton, might be controversial on that one, but I mean, for the Bengals, he was pretty good and still playing. Not necessarily as the starter, was a backup and then got forced into the starting role this year, but Andy Dalton's had a good amount of touchdowns. Levante David, gotta make sure he's in there. I don't know why he's wearing 00. I think he's like 42 or something like that, 45. Stefan Davis, pretty good rusher. Not a lot of touchdowns, but lots of yardage. Thomas Davis, I think he was still playing this year or last year. Vernon Davis played for a long time too. Very athletic. Steve Deberg, I think he was worth putting in here. Played for a long time, up until he was like 47 or something. Mostly as a backup, but when he got a starting job, he was pretty good for the Chiefs. Corey Dillon, I think he passed away or something. Maybe it was somebody else. Aaron Donald, just defensive beast. Ray Donaldson, Pro Bowl lineman. Donald Driver. Signs via his charity for $10, guys, in case you're looking to send to him. Just a tip for TTMers. And Elvis Dumerville, a Broncos favorite. Sadly, just lost that mojo when he went to Baltimore. Well, he had it for 1 year, and then it just all went downhill from there. Work done. Also, a lot of yardage, but not a whole lot of touchdowns. And Super Duper Mark Duper. So, I think that's it. So, that's the first binder, guys. So, A through D. So, I know this is kind of a long video, but thanks for watching. Appreciate if you watched to the end. Let me know if you did, and let me know if you want me to continue going on with the binders. So we'll go. I think there's 2 more to do, and then go to the Hall of Fame. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a good weekend. Bye.